So I get a lot of questions about my specific person manifestation journey. And recently, my client has jotted down some important questions, and I thought that I will make a video about it because there cannot be a better time than this, because I am right now at my SP's and I have been living here for weeks and I am enjoying the time with him and his family, something that I had always wanted when I was first doing my affirmations 3 years back. So in this video, I'm going to give you as many details as possible. It's a really long story. For that, I may have to do a live someday. But in this video, I'll try to keep it as short and simple and as straightforward to the point. I had earlier made another video on my story, which was basically the second part of my manifestation journey, and it is equally important and it is equally relevant, because if I had to do it all over again, I would follow the instructions in that video. That video is all about how my story is similar to what Neville talks about in the ladder technique. So basically, in simple words, that story answers your question how your manifestation gets real even with doubts, even when you sleep with doubts and fears. So yeah, make sure you watch that video, and in this video I will answer some commonly asked questions. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Olivia and here is where I talk about manifestation, law of assumption, and anything and everything that makes you the better version of yourself. If you're new here, thank you so much. If you like the type of work that I do, please make sure you subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a video like this. And to all of you who have been supporting this channel, who have been commenting daily, thank you so much. Please continue doing that. Please support this channel. It helps me to reach more people like you. It helps me to help people not do the mistakes that I have done. If you want coaching with me, please check the description box below to get in touch with me. I have my email there. So now let's move on to some of the important questions that my client asked. So first question was, how do you get back after a spiral? If you have watched this video, you probably know how, but I am going to repeat it again. Nothing is more important than what your truth is. My truth has always been, despite my fears, despite my anxieties, despite my doubts, despite circumstantial delays, my truth has remained the same for 3 years now, ever since I have known SP, that SP and I belong together, and nothing can ever be louder than that truth. So if I had to go back to journaling the same exercise again and again, if I had to go back to journaling the same scene again and again, if I had to go back to writing it in present tense or in future tense again and again, I did it. If I had to robotically affirm through anxiety, tears, I did it. If I had to let go at times, I did it without worrying, because I knew by this time my dominant thought is again, SP and I belong together. So nothing can ever be louder than your truth, and this is exactly what I tell all my clients. Whoever comes to me for the specific person manifestation course, everyone has a common story. I felt a click, and so did I. When I matched with my SP, the first thing that my inner voice told me is that this is your guy, this is your soulmate, okay? And my conscious mind did try to shut it down, because obviously if you see a guy's picture and if you instantly think, oh, you're going to spend your life together, then of course you would call yourself an idiot, and my conscious mind did that. But then that is wrong. If a silent voice inside you tells you what is right, what your story is, then that is your subconscious mind. That is your intuition, whatever you call it. So never ignore that voice. If I had ignored that voice, I would have always been stuck in the loop of being on dating apps and stuff like that. And if I had not ignored that voice sooner, then I wouldn't have taken so much time. So yeah. The second question she asked was, how do you continue to persist even when you see no movement? And this is why coaching is so important. No matter how many times I tell in the videos, you need to listen from your personal coach again and again through various instances that you can never cover in YouTube. That yes, 3D does not matter. So, examples from my story. When I first manifested my SP, mind you, he was an out of thin air manifestation. I did not expect that I would match with my soulmate on the day I installed the app. But the background story of this particular incident is that previously I was already in a long term relationship, and that relationship was shrinking me. The more I felt suffocated in that relationship, the louder my inner voice became. So every time I would have this inner voice telling me again and again, if I exist, he exists as well. Now, mind you, when this inner voice was keeping on repeating itself again and again, telling me to get out, to get out, to get out of this reality, my body was still stuck in the old reality with an old SP in an old life. But my mind, my subconscious mind, already knew what I wanted. So that is why it does not matter where you are at one point in your life in the 3D. If you can confront your truth, which is what we teach, we learn in conscious manifestation, the day you become one with your subconscious mind, the day you know how to control the madness of your conscious mind, that day you understand that the 3D reality is a scam. And so before I met my SP now, I knew that that was certainly not my story, and someone out there has to be, because I kept on having this inner voice repeating again and again. And so eventually I matched with my SP, and SP started reflecting all the assumptions I had about a soulmate. But in that situation, I had just gotten to know about conscious manifestation. And when you start getting to know about conscious manifestation, of course, you don't immediately jump into manifesting marriage or being a millionaire, right? You always start with how to manifest a text, how to break no contact. So I just wanted to manifest a bunch of texts and never that real relationship. So what eventually happened is that my self-concept was so low, the creative power of my mind was also so limited, so constricted, and I had these negative assumptions about life, about love, about myself, about men in general, that I thought that even though SP is repeating all that I want to hear, I thought that it is too good to be true. I thought that he is too pretty. I used to have this fear, and I used to have this disgusting assumptions that pretty people, pretty boys always hurt you. So I had that insecurity. I had those doubts. I had those bad assumptions. And on the surface level, even though I could manifest what exactly I wanted to hear in the form of texts, I could not manifest a proper relationship. And since SP was an out of thin air manifestation, he was reflecting my self-concept. He was exactly my mirror back then. And I always used to have this feeling that even though this is too good to be true, even though I'm feeling it now, I always felt happy from a place of fear, which ultimately made me believe that this is not going to last forever and I am not meant for love. I'm not ready for this. And eventually what happened is that he went into no contact with me. He stopped talking to me. And although on the surface level, I felt very hurt, I thought that he's the bad guy. But then ultimately, he was reflecting all that I was thinking in my head. And it's not like he wanted to hurt me. In his life, he was going through a very traumatic incident. But had it been with the self-concept that we have now, breakup is not even like on the page, right? It's not even a matter of discussion. But back then, we used to have these assumptions. Since I used to have these assumptions, he used to have these assumptions as well, that he doesn't deserve me, and I don't deserve him, and he deserves better, and all of that nonsense. Okay, so although I tried to persist again through texts after the no contact, I eventually gave up. After a point of time, because the 3D was too much for me to handle. No contact was too much for me to handle. And so I gave up. But ultimately, one day, I had to confront it. And it did not happen all of a sudden one day. During the no contact, I was going out with other people, because by this time I had consumed a lot of manifestation content by white people who tell you to go out with other SPs even if you are manifesting an SP, and that is okay. And I don't know if that's okay or not, because they ask you to do that to see how your affirmations about your self-concept is playing, and in relationships are playing, and other men will give you what you want and shit like that. And it did work, but was it necessary? No. Would I do it again? No. How would I spend the time? I would just spend the time doing my techniques better and pouring all the focus in myself. I won't say I would utilize the time loving myself better, because that is a very utopian concept. I would dedicate the time dedicating to myself, if that makes sense. I would do my affirmations also, and then I would learn more about manifestation, and I would also pour more into my hobbies and see how I can make money out of them. So yeah. So despite living in denial throughout the period of no contact, I used to have these visions where SP and I are together. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it used to be in the form of, like, if I am surrounded with other people and I am chilling with my friends, I would get these visions into the future where I am sitting beside my SP in the car and he is driving, and I am just looking outside and he's complaining about the traffic. So I really don't know if that was my intuition, or I don't know if my subconscious mind was saturated enough by then that it already could see the future, just like I was doing my inner dialogue. I was listening to my inner self when it told me, okay, if you exist, he exists as well. So something like that happened eventually. And one day I had to confront that voice because it was getting intolerable. And I think it was because during the initial days when I had just gotten to know about affirmations and we had, gotten into no contact, I would do affirmations like, okay, if I am thinking of him, he is thinking of me. If I am manifesting him, he's manifesting me. So later on with conversations with SP, I got to know that he was thinking of me exactly during the times something was not working out in my life with other people. So yeah, to a point, I think he was thinking of me so much. It got unbearable and I had to confront it. I had to confront my own truth. I had to surrender to the fact that yes, I want this. I will not be ashamed of it, and I will do this now more audaciously. All right. So at this point of time, I was already going out with someone else. We were not in a relationship, but we were going out for a couple of dates monogamously, if that makes sense. And I had really prayed to God. Since I feel close to God, I had prayed. When I don't know what to do, when my mind does not know how to think, I go back to prayers and I say, and I said, I prayed that, God, if this guy is supposed to be in my life, then bring him to me. And if he's not supposed to be in my life, then remove him and help me get over him permanently. Okay. Immediately, the person who I was going out with back then, he started misbehaving and he projected on me and he told me a lot of things. And I was like, damn, he shouldn't really talk to his girl like that. And that's how that ended. That's how another month went by. And finally, on the last 3 weeks of no contact, I think in the last month of no contact, I actually knew this is where I belong. But by that time, a lot of old story had played out. And since previously I could only manifest a bunch of texts and never a date with SP, I sort of could not imagine the movements in between. I always imagine this reality where I'm sitting here at his home and making videos, but I could never imagine the movements in between. And that is why, you know, when I had finally confronted with my desire, and when I had started doing my affirmations in a more focused way, it took only 3 weeks. It took only 3 weeks for me to get back into a relationship with SP. Okay. But we ended up in a long distance relationship. But never for once I gave up on my desire because of my fears. So, mind you, when SP was not in contact with me still, and I had my birthday and I was still doing my affirmations, I remember enjoying that birthday as if he would text me, but it really did not matter. So my focus was not on the text. My focus was never in the movements in between. My focus was on the end goal. But it would have manifested more faster if I had gotten rid of my fears faster. Okay. But still had those fears, and it still got manifested because by that time my dominant thought was that, okay, we are supposed to be together no matter what. So it happened. He did not text me on my birthday. That's fine. It still happened. And you know what was the reason that he gave me? So SP is a man of traditional principles. Okay. I got to know about a lot about those principles that he holds on to, that he's really crazy about, after being with him. And he was like, when I know that you are with someone else, why would I text your birthday? And he chose that day to leave my city. It was that dramatic. So he was thinking of me, but he was thinking that maybe he has no ending with me. And he thought I belong with someone else because in between, I remember we had a conversation in August, and that was before my birthday. My birthday is in September. And I had this tingling feeling where I thought that I must text SP and ask him to delete my pictures that I had shared during our course of conversation, because all of a sudden I felt very uncomfortable of the fact that he had my pictures. And SP had responded immediately. It had never happened. I had tried breaking no contact once before, but it was from a state of desperation, of fear and lack, and he did not respond. But that day he did, and it was in August, and it was on that day he told me about why he actually got into no contact with me. It was because of something that happened in the family, and it was really traumatic, and he did not want to involve me in that. Again, had it been now, there's no question, we all are a family. So yeah, back then we were so ourselves, we were so scared of being in a real relationship because it was too good to be true for both of us, and he was reflecting my self-concept. And again, I was carrying a lot of shame, a lot of visibility scare from my old relationship. So yeah, I had to go through the fire to get where I am today. And I really do not believe that good things take time. But if it does, it's okay. It's okay. Because when it comes to you, you do not have the fear of losing it anymore, because now you know how to hold it. So I did not see movement on my birthday too, again, but there was movement. Even if SP was leaving the city, he was thinking that he does not have any future with me. But who cares about what SP thinks, right? It's always about what you think. So I remember I spent that birthday having fun, and when I was wearing that red dress, I was standing in front of the mirror and my friends were also cheering me up. It doesn't matter. You will be going out in this dress with him, and while he's next to you, he'll be wearing a tux. And I have that dress with me here. So we still did not get a chance to go out to a particular date where we would dress up like that, but we have been on many beautiful dates, so it does not matter. But yeah, I completely lived my story every day, even with no notification on my phone. Here, it was all done. And that is why I'm here. So, no movement could never demotivate me. because I decide what I want in my life. And this is not just about SP, it's about everything. Everything in my life is a conscious decision first here, and then I see it in the future, good or bad. And everything has to do with my self concept. Another question she asked, did you ever think of SP being with someone else? Always. Always. I used to think that SP is a player. And remember what I told you? Since he's a pretty great looking guy, I used to think that, okay, maybe it's the thing, maybe all good looking guys eventually break your heart, or maybe he's a player or whatever. But then eventually, after all the fears and doubts, when I would actually sit with myself, you will notice one thing, that your truth or your intuition is never as loud as your fear. And my assumption about him, my core assumption about him, was always what I used to visualize, and how I used to visualize as, when we are together, we act like, a bunch of, we act like as if we are 11-year-old. And sometimes we act like a married couple. He introduces me as the fiance everywhere. And who cares about how much time it takes when you get to hear what you want to hear and you are already living that life? I did not even wait for SP to confirm my thoughts. It just happened. I decided and it happened. And the sooner I shifted these third party assumptions about him, I used to tell myself about things like, okay, Olivia, that is just your fear. You know how good he is. And so what if he has a female following? When you guys are in a serious relationship, they won't be there. And they're not there. There's no other woman except some of his family members and me on his Instagram. And he has to do a lot with the type of upbringing, and he belongs to a family of gentlemen. And that was my assumption as well, that my soulmate will never let me down on my standards of chivalry, monogamy, all of that. When I used to have those fears about him being with other people, or maybe seeing old comments of women posting on his profile, even before we had talked, I used to think like, yeah, okay, maybe he is a lady's favorite, which is a good thing. That means if women approve of him, then definitely he is a green flag. That is how I would assure myself. And that happened. That happened. Do I have to worry about any other person anymore? No. Do I sometimes worry out of fear? Yes, that is normal. Does he worry about me leaving him? Yes, that is normal. That is how normal people behave. But do we let that fear govern us? No, no way. And honestly, we don't even have the time to think what is beyond us anymore, because this is everything. And one thing that I've understood in my life experience is that manifestation or not, actually manifestation, your relationship, your life remains better, remains good, as long as you think it will remain good. If you think that, okay, good things don't last, then they won't. If you think everything has a bad ending, then yes. If you think your beauty will fade away with time, then yes, it will be. So you create third parties like that. Okay, then she has asked me more about locking in. So yes, when I finally confronted what my subconscious mind was hinting, that yes, I finally understood that, okay, this is where I'm supposed to be. And I remember going into saturation sessions, because I had just discovered Taylor Took's channel by then. And I would go into saturation sessions of 3-4 hours during the weekend, and every day at least 1 hour on weekdays. And I would listen to 1 hour or 3-hour playlist of focus music, and I would do my affirmations. And while I was doing my affirmations, I would observe what kind of imaginal acts I was having. And I honestly did not care about movement at all. I stopped checking my phone. I would keep my phone on DND, and I would know, okay, this is going to happen anytime now. It feels so good to live in my head. So the moment you realize that you're feeling euphoric doing that imaginal acts and your affirmations that you know that it is going to happen, like duh, that feeling, then it all works out. So I locked in. But since I still had a lot of fears, and I don't know, had this fear that maybe a SP would not meet me anytime sooner. That is why it ended up in long distance for a really long time. And then we met, and then he did travel to surprise me on my birthday. And now I'm living with him. So, locking in once during those 2 weeks, 3 weeks, did get me back into reconciliation. But did it change my relationship? No. Do I have to lock in again and again to get back, to get what I want, or to get everything that I want? No. What do I have to do then? I only have to let go of the old story, and I have to let the past hurt have so much power over me. If I have once decided that this is what is my truth is, then I cannot be a slave to old triggers and trauma. And how does that happen? That happens with repetition, of course, whatever method helps you. But that also happens when you stop looking at manifestation in black and white perspective. As in black, when you do the affirmations wrong, it's all going wrong. Or if you do not do your techniques, then it's all going wrong. And white, you just have to do your affirmations. No. You will not spend your life being stuck in the cycle of affirming again and again. No. You will only have to live with confidence, with the version of you that has it all, and you will upskill yourself. You will make space for that version. The last year, after everything has finally happened, and no matter how many fights we have had, most of the fights we have had, it's because I had started going back to the old story, or I had reacted from the old story, or I had acknowledged SP, or I just wanted to bully SP for the old story, okay? But never for once SP said that I don't want you. Never for once he said that. So you can recreate someone. You can completely recreate your story, but you can only keep it when you stop going back to the old version of you. And for this version, for this ideal relationship to finally have all the space in my life, I had to do a lot of radical changes also. And that emerged, those actions that I took eventually came from my affirmations. So when I said affirmations like we are happily committed, there's no world outside of us, we are each other's best friends, we uplift each other, we motivate each other. A lot of shitty people, friends I thought would stay all my life, they disappeared. And these people were parasites. And as long as they were there, I had a bad money mindset, I had bad relationship mindset, I had bad SP mindset, everything. And when all of these changes were happening, I'm talking about lifelong friendships getting removed and all of these are also traumas, right? When you start making adjustments with those changes, that reality, that your reality brings you to show that you are in alignment with your manifestation, there are two things that people do. One, they go back to spiraling, they think everything is going wrong. And the second thing is what we do, which is like, okay, finally I have space for my relationship to breathe. Finally, I feel closer even though I'm in LDR. You know what I mean? So I'm sorry that there's no script for this video, because I cannot put a script to this. And I'm saying things as I'm realizing while I'm saying. So there were moments when I was depressed even after being with SP. And I thought that SP would come and fix me. He did. But he couldn't fix me, as in he is himself a reflection of my creation. How is he supposed to fix me? So I am only supposed to fix me. And in those moments of isolations, I did a lot of self-work. Like I started revisiting my assumptions about everything in my life, my career, my finance, everything. And recently, while journaling, I understood I had these limiting beliefs which I never thought that I had. And I understood that why my relationship or my career wasn't flourishing and was stagnant after a point of time, like earlier here and some money here, is because when I journaled, I understood that I had this fear that as a woman, if I want a full-blown career, then I won't be able to enjoy the support of a man or have the coziness of a relationship, because again, I had these old assumptions that, okay, a man always gets jealous of a woman's progress. And that is again what society has been showing me again and again. But I'm not saying that is not true, but that shouldn't be true in my case. And that is where manifestation comes, right? So in those moments of isolations and going through changes, that were changes brought by my affirmations itself. And even after manifesting the relationship, I did not have complete movement, right? I was in long distance. I did not know when we will meet. We met. He came to surprise me on my birthday, but it was all happening in long gaps in between, right? Months and months. Despite after locking in and after only robotically affirming, I could manifest contact because somewhere in my head, it was. So the problem is not with robotic affirmations. The problem here is about the limitation that I had in my head about this story playing out. Although I knew that we are going to spend the future together, the future which is my today, in physical reality, in that moment, I still saw a distance between me and that reality, and I thought that SP is going to fill up those gaps. I waited for SP to show movement. And that is wrong. Movement happens when you decide that it is going to happen now. And that is why all the success stories that I have posted regarding my video, regarding my story, happened. Although I spiraled, although I had a lot of problems, but they happened instantly when I decided that they would happen. So for instance, for my birthday, although I did not have any past experience with SP of surprising me, or anyone for that matter, traveling and surprising me, I sort of expected that it would happen. And I had that expectation not throughout the year, but I had that expectation only maybe 2 weeks before my birthday. But I also had an open mind that I will not let this, even if I quote unquote fail at it, I will not let this affect me. I will have some other plans. So I started taking this approach as my life does not depend on my manifestation. My life does not depend on movement. It is going to happen either way, but I'm still going to enjoy my life and enjoy me being me. Okay. So yeah, no, movement never really matters. It never mattered to me. Yeah, the final question is about how long it took. So knowing robotic affirmations, and you can tell by now, things started moving rapidly. The sooner I stopped focusing on techniques and the why and how, it's not like I stopped doing the techniques. I stopped depending on the techniques. It happened sooner than when I stopped depending on the techniques but focused on me more and keeping my mind in control, my nervous system in control. When I felt calm, when I felt clarity, and when I decided, okay, this month I'm going to be there, this month he's going to be here, this is how we are going to spend it, this is how it's going to be happening. And yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And really staying in that mindset, that really changed things for me. That really sped up the process. So yeah, it takes sooner for you to manifest when your focus is not anywhere in any sort of distraction, but only your story. That, okay, this is what I choose and this is how it is going to be. And choosing that future in your head as a lived reality in your head in the present every day, then you will get it instantly, or then you will get it sooner. But if you're constantly focused on the movements and how to manifest a text and how to change his behavior and micromanage all of that, and really not going in your self concept and understanding that everyone is a reflection of your expectations and your assumptions, then it's going to take time and then it's going to manifest. I'm not saying that it will not manifest into relationships because I did that. But was it a high quality relationship back then as much as it is now? No. So yeah, that is your answer. I think that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment down if you have any questions. I will try to answer as much as I can. And yeah, we'll meet again.